Welcome to Scandal Water,
where we cover the stories that have captivated the entertainment world.
I'm Candy, a longtime educator and community theater actress.
And I'm Ashley, a writer and co-founder of a local theater group.
We're two friends who share a love of entertainment.
From true crime docuseries to blockbuster movies to classic TV to Broadway shows and everything in between.
Each week, I share a compelling story related to pop culture.
And I chime in using my trivia junkie brain.
We stick to the facts until it's time to settle into our armchairs at the end.
Then we're simply two women with a strong cup of tea and even stronger opinions.
We're Scandal Water.
And if this sounds like your cup of tea,
follow the show on your favorite podcast app or the Scandal Water Podcast YouTube channel.
Oh, it's that time of day. Tune in and hear what the ladies say. It's time to bend your ear when the silver screen appears. Stories about the stage and screen and everything in between. So come on and join the fun. The curtain opens in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Ashley.
hello, Candy.
Ready for another, not just another great episode. I think this one's going to be fantastic.
I'm excited.
Yes, we are still in our theme. Big anniversaries is what we're celebrating this month, and this is a big one.
Yes,
this
it
is a
is.
big one. To start with, I'm just going to play a little clip.
Great-grandfather, Harry Colburn, was a veterinarian. He emigrated from Britain to Canada when he was 18. Loved animals, went to the Ontario Veterinary College to become a vet, and then when the First World War broke out in 1914, he enlisted with a Winnipeg regiment of Fort Garry Horse, and his responsibilities in the war were to look after the cavalry, and he traveled from Winnipeg through White River to Valcartier, where he trained as part of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Brigade. While he was in White River, he stopped at a train station, and there was a hunter there who had killed a bear, and he was selling the cub for $20. And my great-grandfather, obviously loving animals, bought this little bear to be kind of a mascot for his regiment. He named the bear Winnipeg, Winnie for short, in homage to his adopted Canadian city.
And the purchase of that bear would end up changing literature and children's entertainment because that bear would eventually inspire the beloved character Winnie the Pooh.
I know.
Which is what we're talking about today. The woman speaking, she's a Canadian lady named Lindsey Mattick. She gave this interview back in 2015. As you heard her say in that quote, she is the great-granddaughter of the man who bought that famous bear. And at the time of the interview, she was excited about the upcoming publication of her new children's book called Finding Winnie, the True Story of the World's Most Famous Bear.
Yes.
And that is a book that you happened to run across, Ashley.
I did, and I found it at the Biltmore Estate. I was just in the gift shop. We were, we had toured the house. We were looking for something to do before we left. It was our last day on our vacation. I stood in the it was in the back, like in their discounted merchandise, although it wasn't discounted, but it was just in the back. I read the whole book, sat there crying in the Biltmore gift shop, and I was like, oh, we have to do this as an episode. Have to. And then I discovered that it was the 100th anniversary of Winnie the Pooh.
Absolutely. Yes. You shared it with me. I read it. I felt the same way. I thought it was a fabulous book, and I did not know this backstory.
I didn't either.
Which we're going to share with you, by the way. Spoiler alert. But yes, we were both so taken with this. And as Ashley said, this is the 100th anniversary of Winnie the Pooh. So all these circumstances combined, how could we not?
We had to.
Yeah, do this episode. So we're going to move into this topic, but it's big because honestly, I'm going to give you a heads up. We're kind of breaking into two parts. We're going to talk about the real life bear before break. And then we're going to talk about how this bear went on to inspire Winnie the Pooh after the break.
Okay.
All right. So the book. First, I should share that Finding Winnie is a nonfiction picture book written by Lindsey Mattick, as we've already said, and illustrated by Sophie Blackall. It was published in 2015 and in 2019 was awarded a Caldecott Medal, which is a great honor in the world of children's literature.
It is.
The story starts with a child named Cole asking to hear a story, which leads to Cole's mother, the narrator of the story, to tell about this man named Harry Colburn and the bear named Winnie that he purchases. Then the mother reveals at the end that all of this is a true story, that Harry is Cole's great-great-grandfather for whom Cole was named.
Yeah.
And the book contains a section at the end labeled Album that shows pictures of actual old photos and artifacts, such as a page from Harry's journal. So that's what the book is like. That's how it's set up. I loved the premise that it was her telling her son this true story of what happened in their family. I thought that was fabulous. If you guys are interested, we highly recommend you get this book.
Yes.
All right. But to continue.
It is also not just at Biltmore, it is available on Amazon as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And it probably all the bookstores,
Yes, all the
right?
bookstores.
Yeah. But to continue Harry and Winnie's story, something that's alluded to in the book is what a big deal it is that Harry spent $20 buying that bear cub. Think about this. This is World War I. That's a lot of money. I didn't know how much, but I looked it up, and the source that I saw said in today's money that would be more like $450 or $475.
Wow.
That's a chunk of change,
Yeah, it is.
right? Also, think about just the fact that he would be moved to do that. His compassion for this cub.
Because that's a big responsibility to take on. This is not a dog or a cat. This
Absolutely.
is a bear.
Absolutely. Of course, he was a vet. He
Yes.
did have a love for animals. At the
Yes.
same time, you know, it still says a lot. He's like, I'm going to take this cub with me to the military camp where I'm headed because I know that if I leave it here, it's
gonna
probably
die.
going to be killed. Yeah.
Or sold to someone who would kill it.
Mystery. Yes, absolutely. So Harry did take Winnie with him to Quebec to a military camp where his job was to care for the horses. Winnie was very bright. Harry trained her to do several things. The men at camp loved her. She was very friendly and cute. Basically, she becomes a little mascot right away. Then when Harry was given orders to go to England, he did take Winnie with him. As the book noted, quote, 30 ships sailed together carrying about 36,000 men and about 7,500 horses and one bear named Winnie. In England, Winnie was the mascot of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Brigade. The men adored her. At one point, they even took pictures with her to send home to their families. That's one
so
of the photos
cute.
that we can see in the
Yes.
album. But Harry had a dilemma. As much as he loved having Winnie with him, he wasn't sure what to do with her when he learned that he was going to be sent to France to the front lines because his services were needed there.
Yeah.
First of all, she's growing, right?
Yeah.
She's
Yes.
getting bigger.
Yes.
She's turning into
She's a bear.
Yep, exactly. And secondly, this is a very dangerous place.
Yeah.
For him and for her both. And how is he going to care for her? How is it
Right.
when he didn't know what to do? He decided he could not take this sweet bear with him to the front lines of a war
Yeah.
in a foreign country to him. So he took Winnie to the London Zoo for safekeeping, intending to come back for her and, you know, at some
Take her.
point, take her on home with him. He missed her. Harry did visit her several times when he was on leave, but when the war ended, he saw how happy and well cared for she was, and he ultimately decided it would be best for Winnie to continue to live at the London Zoo. The London Zoo website says, this is their wording, that Harry donated her permanently in gratitude for her care in 1919. And Winnie was incredibly popular at the London Zoo.
Because she's pretty well domesticated. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Children in particular loved her. In fact, I think this says a lot about how gentle she was, to your point. They would frequently allow children to personally interact
and play with her.
with a bear. Yes, this is a full-grown, most of the sources called her a black bear. Some referred to her as a brown bear, but this is a full-grown bear. And they would let these children give her food.
Wow.
And sometimes ride on her back. Yeah, they trusted Winnie. Winnie lived for 2 decades before passing away in May of 1934. Here is her brief obituary that was published in the New York Times. Winnie the Pooh, the Canadian brown bear for whom A.A. Milne named his famous children's book, died at the London Zoo today at the ripe age of 20. For the past 2 years, she had been paralyzed, but
Aw.
almost to the end, she allowed visitors to stroke her fur in her room behind the bear dens.
Oh.
Winnie had been the darling of London's children ever since she arrived in England in 1914 as the mascot of the Canadian regiment, the Princess Pats. She could roll over on her back and emit poo in a high-pitched, querulous voice.
That must be where the poo came from.
We're going to come back to that.
Okay.
And once she even pooed at Queen Mary, who was visiting at the zoo. She could not abide the other bears, but she was invariably friendly to human beings. Thousands of times she licked condensed milk off spoons held by children, but she never once showed bad temper. This is a quote. We never had a bear like her, said her sorrowing keeper today. So again, the obituary listed her as a brown bear. Most of the sources said she was a black bear.
Okay.
You got kind of touched by that,
I did.
Ashley. It got me to the part where she was paralyzed and still allowed them to pet her. Oh my gosh, what a sweet, sweet animal.
I know.
Well, in that book, in Lindsey's book, there's a place where the mother figure tells the little boy, Cole, sometimes you have to let one story end so the next one can begin. I thought that was a bit profound.
It really is.
It got me because the context was in that case, in that moment in the book, he's saying, is Harry gone?
Yeah.
Is Harry gone from the story?
Yeah.
And that's when she answers with one story has to end sometimes for the next one to begin. But I thought it also fit perfectly with where we are in this episode. I know that was brief.
Yeah.
But we're going to go ahead since we've brought Winnie the Real Bear's story to an end there.
Yeah.
We're going to go to break. When we come back, it's going to be a little longer on the backside, guys, but we're going to talk about how this lovely bear led to the beloved character of Winnie the Pooh.
Okay. We love our sponsors. They help make our podcast possible, but we also know that some of you prefer to enjoy your tea without any interruptions. Well, if that's the case, you'll be excited to learn that you can now listen to Scandal Water free of sponsor ads on Apple Podcasts for only $4.99 a month or $49.99 a year. The best part? By subscribing, you'll also receive access to our exclusive bonus content. To sign up, just go to Apple Podcasts and search for Scandal Water Podcast, and you'll see the link. Thanks for helping us keep the tea brewing. Cheers!
And we are back. So, as we mentioned before the break, Winnie's obituary referred to her as the darling of London's children. And one child who did absolutely adore that bear was a young boy named Christopher Robin Milne.
Oh, Christopher Robin.
Christopher Robin was born in 1920 to parents' father, A.A. Milne, who at that time was probably best known as a playwright and humorist.
Oh, I didn't know he was a playwright.
And mother Dorothy, nicknamed Daphne, who was a wealthy socialite when she married.
Oh.
By the way, I just had to look it up because I'm like, my whole life I've heard A.A. Milne. What does A.A. stand for?
Yeah.
Alan Alexander, in case you guys were wondering too.
Alan
There's the
Alexander.
answer. But speaking of names, quick side note about Christopher Robin Milne's name. Of course, we all know, no spoiler here, A.A. Milne is going to end up naming the main character in his Winnie the Pooh series after his son, right? But Christopher's nickname from infancy was actually Billy, the real boy.
Where did you get Billy from Christopher Robin?
That's just what they called him.
Okay.
And at some point in his early childhood, it became Billy Moon because of the cute way he would mispronounce his last name.
Oh.
So for a long time, he was Billy Moon.
Oh.
When Winnie the Pooh became popular, that of course brought a lot of attention to the name Christopher Robin. And so at that point, a lot of people, of course, would totally tune
Identify
in.
him with that.
Yeah, you know, they would refer to him, oh, you're Christopher Robin, or you're Chris Robin. But we'll come back to that point later. He didn't always love that. Okay. So as he continued to grow up, Christopher became the name that people called him. And he would comment later in his life that Christopher is actually the only name he ever felt was his, the one that he really identified with.
Okay.
So from this point on, just to kind of help keep this straight, if you hear me refer to Christopher, or
You're talking about
I'm
the
talking about
human.
the son, I'm talking about the real person, actually. Yes, you nailed it. If I say Christopher Robin, it's the character.
Gotcha.
Okay. So for Christopher's first birthday, his parents gave him a teddy bear named Edward Bear. It was from Harrods of London. By the way, Edward was the proper form of the name Teddy. So it was this clever, he was a teddy bear, so he was Edward, right?
Gotcha.
Christopher loved that bear, but he was not attached to that name. He ended up changing it a few different times before settling on the one that would famously stick. Winnie the Pooh.
Oh.
And the reason he came to that is because, like so many of the other London children, Christopher met and was captivated by a gentle black bear at the London Zoo. According to several sources, one being Wikipedia, Christopher first met Winnie in 1924 and after that became a frequent visitor to the zoo. Now, this got me. It wasn't the way we envision a visit to a bear's cage today. I found a photo. I'm
They're
going to put it
playing,
in show
right?
notes.
They're just like cuddling and playing.
Oh, it's more to me, shocking is the word I'm going to use because to me it was shocking. There's a photo where you see Christopher as a young boy. He's down feeding Winnie, I think from a spoon afternoon. I think it's that condensed milk we were talking about. And you see above them the little barred window. His dad, and I'm assuming it's the zookeeper, they're just watching from above.
Winnie's in there with the baby.
Totally alone.
Yeah.
With a bear.
With a black bear.
Feeding it.
Yes.
I'm like, what is happening? What is happening?
Modern parenting goes, what?
But at the same time, they said
shows
it.
you.
In 20 years, that bear had never gotten angry with a human being. So I 100% trust they had in this bear.
Yeah.
And it's apparent. A. Milne himself described Christopher's visits to Winnie in the introduction to his first book. Here's an excerpt from what he wrote. So when Christopher Robin goes to the zoo, he goes to where the polar bears are, and he whispers something to the third keeper from the left, and doors are unlocked, and we wander through dark passages and up steep stairs until at last we come to the special cage, and the cage is opened, and out trots something brown and furry, and with a happy cry of, "Oh, bear!" Christopher Robin rushes into its arms. Now this bear's name is Winnie, which shows what a good name for bears it is. But the funny thing is that we can't remember whether Winnie is called after Pooh or Pooh after Winnie. We did know once, but we have forgotten. So again, prior to 1924, A. Milne was known for writing adult works.
Interesting.
Especially plays, but also novels and essays. But in 1924, he published a very successful collection of children's poems called When We Were Very Young, which included a poem called Teddy Bear, with Mr. Edward Bear identified as the subject. At one point, that name is mentioned. We think that's when this character is first
introduced in its first form.
In its first form.
Okay.
Exactly. A. Milne published A Gallery of Children in 1925, which was a collection of short fantasy stories for children. But Winnie the Pooh first appeared in the London Evening News on Christmas Eve of 1925 in a story called The Wrong Sort of Bees. It's interesting because this is where I'm going back to what you said before. This confused me too. We heard the term Pooh associated with the real live Winnie in that London zoo. In the New York Times obituary, it talked about
that she said Pooh.
Right. But according to a Time magazine article, here's how Christopher's teddy bear and then, of course, the famous character came to have the name Winnie the Pooh. Milne's introduction to his 1924 book, When We Were Very Young, traces the origin of the second half of the name to a swan. Quote, Christopher Robin, who feeds this swan in the mornings, has given it the name Pooh. This is a very fine name for a swan, because if you call him and he doesn't come, which is a thing swans are good at, then you can pretend that you were just saying Pooh to show him how little you wanted him. So that's what he published in the book, was that the name came from this swan. I have to wonder if it wasn't also inspired by Winnie, the real life bear.
I would say so.
Right.
If she did that and he knew that she did that,
Exactly.
he's watching Christopher interact with Winnie and she does her little poo. I would say that's
that's
more
what I'm
likely.
going with.
Yeah, it's more likely.
That's what I believe. All right, but back to the point. The story was an instant sensation, and its popularity encouraged A. Milne to write more about Winnie the Pooh and his adventures. Let's kind of flesh this out. So as I'm sure we all know, a lot of his ideas were inspired by what was happening in his own little family. Not only did Christopher's teddy bear end up playing a role in the stories, but A. Milne incorporated several other of his son's stuffed animals. According to that same Time magazine article I referenced earlier, only Rabbit and Owl were fabricated totally by Milne as characters.
Interesting. Okay.
And then, of course, their appearance was created by the illustrator, Ernest H. Shepard.
Okay.
The other characters did relate to Christopher's stuffed animals. Kanga, Tigger, Piglet, Eeyore, and Roo. Those were all animals he had.
Okay.
Yeah, but A. Milne didn't just create the storylines out of thin air. His wife actually played a huge role in that. In a New York Times article, it said that Christopher Robin Milne actually credited his mother Daphne for providing, quote, most of the material for his father's books. Here's his next quote. It was my mother who used to come and play in the nursery with me and tell my father about the things I thought and did.
Oh, so she's the in-between.
He gave her a lot of credit for
Okay.
playing with him and for passing along the storylines and the ideas.
So actually, Christopher is coming up with the plots of some of these books.
Absolutely. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. This really was not just based on his toys, on his play.
On his
itself.
imagination.
Yeah, his imagination was important to this. Now, as for the setting. According to a Reader's Digest article, A.A. Milne kept a home in London for the family, but they would often spend weekends at a country home called Cochford Farm in East Sussex, right beside Ashdown Forest. And this is the location that inspired many of the spots referenced in the books, including the 100-Acre Wood.
Okay.
The storybook, Winnie the Pooh, came out in 1926. It actually came out in mid-October and sold more than 150,000 copies before the end of the year, just in the U.S. So it was massively successful. And it also received a lot of praise from the critics. So, I mean, it was a hit.
It's huge.
And I'm going to pause there because I just realized I haven't even asked you this. Did you read Winnie the Pooh? Like, was this something that you were a fan of when you were young?
I don't remember reading Winnie the Pooh, but I know that Disney ended up taking over Winnie.
Yes, we're going to get to that here soon.
I think that's my interaction is the Disney-fied version, the little red-shirted guy, and I had a record that had Tigger on it. Most recently, it was when we went on our vacation in May, we went by Disney World, and a lot of people have a bucket list item of being evacuated off of a ride.
Oh, are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding.
Who would want to do that?
It's just something different. I mean,
Okay,
it's kind of fun, and you get to see behind the scenes, and the lights come on, and you get to see what it looks like. We didn't even know they had a Winnie the Pooh ride in Fantasyland, and we went to an after-hours event, and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train had broken down. And anyway, we were just like, oh, Winnie the Pooh ride, let's go on that. I don't know how Winnie the Pooh ride ends because midway through, it broke down.
Really?
And we got to be evacuated off the ride. But there was a girl and her mom that were in front of us, and she also was super excited. I was excited. She was excited. We're
Isn't
like, we're
that funny?
getting evacuated. Yes,
I
my
can't
first
believe
time.
that's a thing.
I'm glad it was that instead of something like the Skyliner.
I was going to say, that's my fear. Like, my biggest fear is to be on some big roller coaster
No,
and I'll
that's
be the
why I
person
don't-
trapped upside down.
That's
from
why I don't go on
200
upside
feet.
down roller coasters, because what if it gets stuck and I need to be evacuated? No, thank you.
Yeah,
Winnie the
terrifying.
Pooh, children's ride,
Okay, I can
totally
handle it.
fine and fun.
Now, how appropriate.
Yeah, I
Like,
know.
what are the odds?
I know.
Here we are doing this episode.
Yeah,
And, okay,
in
I
May.
love it.
I
I love
know.
it. My experience is similar. I think Disney's version of Winnie the Pooh is
What
what
you
I
knew.
know. And honestly, I mean, I've always thought Winnie the Pooh was really cute, but it's just not something, it wasn't like I was like this huge fan of it. I just always thought, isn't this sweet?
Yes, I think so
Isn't
too.
this sweet? Yeah. I think I even I think I bought a stuffed animal for Kennedy back when she was little. But, all right, moving back in. So we've had the first book come out.
Huge success.
Huge success. This is an interesting side note. I did not know this. We're talking about the appearance, right? Famous, accomplished illustrator created the looks for these animals, right? For these characters.
So did she make it look like the way that Disney later did it?
Well, it was a he,
he, okay.
Ernest H. Shepard.
Okay.
And Pooh himself, they did use the animals, right? But Pooh himself was not based on Christopher's teddy bear, but actually on a teddy bear named Growler that belonged to the illustrator's son, Graham.
Oh, okay.
So what happened was Ernest Shepard was trying to use the stuffed animal, Winnie the Pooh, as his inspiration. He made some early drawings, and both he and A.A. Milne felt like Pooh looked a little too gruff, a little too angular and stiff for a children's story. Because if you look at Christopher's bear, he's not the big, round, fluffy, furry, hold him,
He's kind of scraggly and scrawny.
Yeah. Absolutely. So when he tried drawing Pooh based on Growler, A.A. Milne reportedly thought it was perfect.
Okay.
He used that word, but he insisted that the rest of the characters for Winnie the Pooh be drawn based on Christopher's toys.
Okay.
All right. Now, the second and final storybook was called The House at Pooh Corner, and it was published in 1928. It was also massively successful.
So he only did 2 books.
Isn't that crazy? Same thing. I went, what? There were
2.
only 2 books?
Wow.
Yeah. The author and literary critic John Rowe Townsend described Winnie the Pooh and its sequel as the spectacular British success of the 1920s and praised it for its light, readable prose. But as successful as it was, A.A. Milne could have had no way of knowing at that time that with these 2 children's storybooks, he had just established what would turn out to be a multi-billion-dollar
Juggernaut.
franchise.
Juggernaut.
Absolutely. A phenomenon. Wow. Yeah. Surprisingly, it wasn't long after the second book was published, around 1929, that he decided to stop writing children's books.
Well, he didn't have much of a start. He just started, did 2, and then ended.
Yes, but they were collections. There were several stories in
okay.
there, and yeah. But part of the reason was because at heart, he had always seen himself as a writer of adult works.
Okay.
He did not want to be seen to be pigeonholed as a writer of children's stories. So that's part of it. But it was also around this time that his son, Christopher, started to be seeing some negative impacts from being associated with this character, Christopher Robin, and this whole line of characters. According to a BBC article, in an essay published in 1929, A.A. Milne shared some of his concerns, saying he was, these are his words, amazed and disgusted by Christopher Robin's fame. He wrote, quote, I feel that the legal Christopher Robin has already had more publicity than I want for him. I do not want C.R. Milne to ever wish that his name were Charles Robert. Yeah. And sadly,
it did happen.
It turned out to be exactly the way he feared. Now, we're not going to dwell on this, but this is an important part of the story. So we're just going to touch on this briefly. Christopher would end up writing 3 autobiographical books over the course of his lifetime. And there was also a movie that came out called Goodbye, Christopher Robin in 2017, all of which focused on, I think, the right word would be trauma that Christopher ended up enduring because of Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, no.
Yeah. One insightful comment I heard made by Margot Robbie, who was in the movie. She played A.A. Milne's wife. But when she was promoting the film, she talked about the fact that the Milnes obviously drew a distinct line between their son and the character Christopher Robin from those Pooh stories. These were totally separate things.
But the public did not.
That's exactly what she said. The public could not separate them. They adored the boy in the series, and they seemed to feel like he and Christopher Milne were one and the same. And this situation ended up having serious effects on Christopher's relationship with his parents, too, which is also something that came up in his books and the movie. So to briefly discuss what happened, Christopher admitted that in the beginning, he loved all the attention. He loved the adoration.
Little kid, yeah.
Yeah, we all would, right?
Yeah.
And his family seemed to lean into it. And remember, think about the time period. I bet they had no idea that there could be any negative impacts from this, right? According to a BBC article, quote, the family didn't exactly shield Christopher from the publicity. He was given the fan letters that children wrote to him and would laboriously pen responses with his nanny's help. Many photographs were taken of him with his father and also alone. When he was 7, he participated in audio recordings that were done of the books. Exploitation, his cousin later said, that showed the unacceptable face of Poohdom. That was a quote. The next year, Christopher performed before 350 guests at a party, reciting parts of the book and singing the song The Friend. In 1929, he acted in a pageant based on the stories. So again, and it was around this time that Dad decided enough was enough. A longtime friend of Christopher's named Giles Brandreth gave an interview that People magazine covered in January of this year. Here's what he had to say about how the fame affected his friend. When Christopher Robin was a little boy up to the age of 10, he was so happy to be Chris Robin, and he loved Winnie the Pooh. He liked having his photograph taken. Then when he went away to boarding school, people began to tease him. He was Christopher Robin. And then when he joined the Army, and after university, and he was in his life trying to get a job, he would go to the interviews and people would say, oh, your name's Milne. Are you by any chance related to the famous writer? Or, your initials are CRM. You must be Christopher Robin. How's Winnie the Pooh? And that infuriated him. He got to the stage where he really couldn't stand it. And in fact, he accused his father of building his reputation by standing on a small boy's shoulders. And the father and son eventually fell out, and there the family became a divided family.
Did they ever repair their family? Do you know?
Well, it got a little better, but it's kind of a sad story all the way through. But to follow that thread just a little bit further, he's referencing a quote that Christopher made, and so just to make sure you get it word for word what Christopher said, here it is. It seemed to me almost that my father had got to where he was by climbing upon my infant shoulders, that he had filched from me my good name and had left me with nothing but the empty fame of being his son. Which I think is actually stronger than what his friend paraphrased. Yeah. So it got ugly for a while.
A lot of resentment there.
Yeah. From what I could tell, Christopher seemed to grow more distance from his father during his college and war years, even more so when he was in that job search part of his life, as we heard his friends say. say. But what really sealed the deal was when Christopher married his first cousin, Leslie de Salincourt. Leslie's father was Daphne's brother. Okay. So they're first cousins.
That's not great.
But now wait, what happened was it wasn't just about the fact that they were related. Daphne and her brother had long been bitterly estranged from each other.
Oh dear, little Romeo and Juliet stuff going on?
Yes, it was.
Oh.
Yes, it was. These two families,
he's rebelling a little bit?
Oh goodness. They weren't raised together. It wasn't like they were playing together.
Okay.
And so when they encounter each other and they fall in love,
they don't even know that they're related?
well, they knew they were related, but to them, it's like, we love each other and it's not our fault that our families hate each other.
Okay.
They just decided they were going to do what they were going to do.
Okay.
But to their families, this is a double
Whammy.
whammy. Yeah, they're furious. They don't like him having a relationship anyway because they're first cousins. But now it's like they're over there with the enemy.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So Christopher did not see much of his parents after the marriage, although sources said he did visit his father a few times toward the end when AA's health was failing. But the Time magazine article I've referenced a few different times now said that after AA Milne's death in 1956, Christopher saw his mother just once in the remaining 15 years of her life. According to several sources, she even declined his request to visit her on her deathbed.
Oh my goodness.
Now, on a slightly more positive note, Christopher's friend and even Christopher himself said that in Christopher's later years, he softened a bit in regard to how he felt about Winnie the Pooh and his parents. Christopher said in his writing that the writing itself had helped him to work through some things, that this was kind of a little bit therapeutic. Mm-hmm. He said he felt like he'd said his goodbyes to his parents. Like he seemed
more at peace.
Yes, he seemed to be in a better place later in his life and seemed to have kind of made his peace.
Okay.
Yes. But again,
that's really sad because it didn't sound like he held anything against his mom. It sounded like he was mad at his dad. So why not go visit her?
Well, she's the one who
told
was
his
bitterly
stories
estranged from.
So it was maybe something separate.
And honestly, I know it sounds like I went dark here. I was actually trying to kind of just keep on the surface level.
Sure.
There was some talk about he gave his mom credit for playing with him when he was very young, but other sources would say that through his childhood as he got older, she was a socialite who was a little bit more involved with social things and wasn't always as attentive. He was very, very attached to his nanny.
Oh, okay.
But again, he would say nice things about his mom playing with him when he was young. So, not really sure. And I haven't had a chance to read his biographies.
That's fine.
Autobiographies, I should say. So there's probably information in there that would help us. And I just haven't had a chance to get to it.
That's okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back to more positive stuff. All right. Some key events that led to Winnie the Pooh becoming the phenomenon we know it to be. In 1930, the merchandising and media rights to Winnie the Pooh were bought by Stephen Schlesinger, a man who was described in a Smithsonian article as being a pioneer in licensing and merchandising characters. Now, think about 1930, right? He was the one who first introduced the red shirt on Pooh. Yes, and when he got these rights, within 1 year, he was bringing in over $50 million, with a huge chunk of that going to A.A. Milne because
it's his
property.
It's his intellectual property.
He owned a percentage of the sale rights.
Oh my
gosh. He had
$50 million in 1930 money.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Now, after Stephen passed away in the early 50s, his widow took over, and so Disney actually had to negotiate a deal with both her and the Milne estate when they acquired licensing rights to Winnie the Pooh in 1961.
Okay.
Walt Disney had long wanted to do this because his own daughters had been huge fans of the stories when they were young, but it took a long time, right? The first animated short featuring Winnie the Pooh came out in 1966. It was entitled Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. And since then, of course, there have been countless shorts, movies, and TV shows featuring the Winnie the Pooh and his friends. There have also been Winnie the Pooh video games, amusement park rides. It goes on and on. In 2006, Pooh Bear himself received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And today, Pooh is just as popular as ever. According to USA Today, the franchise, which includes children's books, TV shows, movies, and so much more, as we've already said, brings in $3 to $6 billion each year.
Billion?
Billion.
In the world.
And of course, they are pulling out all the stops to celebrate this 100th anniversary. They have put out special merch and collector's editions of the Pooh stories. Museums and libraries are hosting celebrations. News shows are running special features. I mean, it's all
a big
kinds
deal.
of things.
I
Right.
might have to look for one of those collector's editions. I'd like to read the original stories.
It would be cool, wouldn't it? Yeah. Well, here are two special anniversary events that I thought I would share to bring this to a close. For this first one, I actually have to start by giving a little backstory. Get
Okay.
ready, because you're going to love this.
Okay.
All right. Although poor little Roo went missing in an apple orchard back in the 1930s, according to Christopher, and Growler was eventually destroyed by a dog,
Oh, no.
the Milne family kept all of Christopher's other stuffed animals. But in 1947, the Milnes allowed those toys to be sent on a promotional tour in the U.S. They were used in a few other promotions over the next few decades, but they spent most of their time tucked away in the offices of A.A. Milne's American publisher, E.P. Dutton, until 1987, when they were donated to the New York Public Library. Since then, they have been kept in a climate-controlled case in the children's area, of course, minus Growler and Roo, because we've
Yeah.
already talked about what happened to them.
Yeah.
But then just a few months ago,
Did they find him?
hang on April 29th of 2026, of course, during this 100th anniversary year, Queen Camilla completed the collection by donating to the library a specially made replica of Roo produced by Merrythought, the same manufacturer that produced Christopher's original dolls in the 1920s.
Wow.
Queen Camilla was focused on promoting literacy during her tour, so she took the time to read Winnie the Pooh to a group of children while she was at the library.
Wow.
I have a lot of pictures of that collection. It just makes my heart so happy to see those actual stuffed animals
actual real
all
ones.
together in that case. And I'm sure they probably every blue moon let that go out in some kind of a special event or some exhibit.
I'd be scared to, though.
But they are so protected.
I'd
you can
almost be
tell.
like the crown jewels. You got to make a replica, and those are the ones that go on tour.
Oh, interesting idea. But anyway, all right. The other thing I was going to share, I think you're going to love this too. Jim Cummings is an incredibly accomplished voice actor who has been the voice of Winnie the Pooh since 1988.
Yes.
And he's also been the voice of Tigger for a long time. I think it's like 20 years. For the 100th anniversary, he visited the Today Show back in January. Here is a short clip where Jim speaks about the honor of bringing Winnie the Pooh and Tigger to life.
What has this been like to voice this character that is so beloved? I mean, just an historic, childhood character, and to bring it to life for all this.
Well, I always say that I don't want to take myself too seriously, but I do take my work seriously. And the reason is it means so much to other people. I mean, I have stories that will just put you on your knees. Stories about people that come out, they've been this trial and tribulation, but Winnie the Pooh got me through. And it just warms my heart. What can I tell you? And makes me want to bounce.
Yeah. Did you love how he managed to
Yes,
get
he
in
got
Winnie the
both.
Pooh and Tigger both in
Tigger
there?
too. Winnie the Pooh and Tigger too.
Oh, and when he said how many people had told him how
They got him
these
through.
characters, yes,
That's amazing. You just never know what is really going to bring comfort to other people. And I'm so sad
Absolutely.
that Christopher had such a struggle with something that ended up bringing so much joy to other people,
It made me sad too, but I wanted to tell the full story.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's always a cautionary tale. It's like, we have to be so careful because you just said it, right? The joy, the peace, the comfort, the literacy, everything that this has brought to this world, but just always thinking about.
And his dad, I assume, I'm going to conjecture here, I assume his father named the character because he was trying to give tribute to something he loved, which was someone he loved, which was his son.
100%.
I'm going to name the hero of my first children's book after my son. I don't think there was any malice at the time.
No, it was a tribute for sure.
Of course. Now, with all the publicity and stuff, we might go, oh, not a great idea. You need to be two separate people. They didn't know any
They
better
didn't
back
know that.
then.
Right. Who would have expected?
Who would have expected it to become a juggernaut? So I'm sorry that it led to such strife within the family, because I really think it was done with the best of intentions. And he seemed to put an end to it as soon as he saw that it was doing any kind of damage to his son.
He really tried. You know, and I forgot to say this earlier, but I'll bring it out now because it fits with what you're saying. One of the things that ended up making Christopher feel a little more sympathetic to his dad and kind of see where he was coming from was his realization that these consequences were so unintentional.
Of course.
Not just to himself, but he saw how, I hate to use this term, but Winnie the Pooh actually, to his mind, damaged A.A. Milne's career. He no longer was able to accomplish what he wanted because he loved his son so much, because he loved his family so much. He was inspired to do some of those children's work during that time of his life because this was what was important to him and he loved it, right? It was just something else to do. He wanted to go back to being a writer of plays.
Adult
and
plays.
Yeah, humorous pieces and essays and novels. He wrote a detective story at one point.
But he's forever known for Winnie the Pooh.
They would not give him jobs. That's something that Christopher said was he saw that this was a struggle for his father as well, you know? And so I even saw, which I thought, this made me happy, Christopher came out for some type of little statue that they were putting out. I think it was at the London Zoo. It was Winnie the Pooh. It was representing this work, and he came out for it.
That's
and I thought, okay, this says something.
That's starting down the road of acceptance. We've seen that a lot of times where somebody does something and that becomes the defining work of their career and they get kind of resentful. Then they pass through a time of understanding and then finally acceptance. It's almost like the stages of grief. You know, you do it and then you go, okay, I'm okay with this now.
Right. And also there might be some pretty amazing things about this if I open myself to see it. Yeah.
Armchair psychologist.
Well, the armchair. We have covered so much. In fact, I said earlier, I feel like we're doing, a couple different stories here. I just will ask you, what lessons can we take away from this episode?
Well, let's work backwards. Let's work from A.A. Milne. Sounds like with today's modern understanding, it's a good idea not to name something after your child. Because I've seen some other entrepreneurs do that. They name their company. One I'm thinking of is, there's some kind of hair dye company where she named it after her daughter. I forget the name of it. But it's done in love. I really do think.
It is absolutely done in love.
But let the children be their own person. And if your character was Christopher, don't name it exactly what your kid was, or name it Robin, or just something where they can be seen as two completely different people.
Right.
Although it feels like a tribute, could cause problems.
Yeah.
That's what I'm learning from their story. The other thing is you just never know what a simple act of kindness can do to impact the world. And again, I don't know why this story of a real live bear being adopted affects me so strongly. But even thinking about it, I'm getting teary again because, it was just such a beautiful thing that he did. And this sweet little bear was a black bear that ended up being this kind creature for 20 years. I just think it's just magnificent.
Absolutely. That's, I think, is what's resonating with me right now, too, is if you look at the big picture, that picture book moved you, brought you to tears. You shared it with me. It touched me, too. It sparked us to do something about it. We created this whole episode. We're here having this conversation. That's children's literature. That's a work, right? That's literacy. And then that led into Winnie the Pooh. This man wrote 2 storybooks, basically, plus some extra extraneous stories here and there. But this small collection of works has impacted so many kids, of course, and then it got picked up by Disney, and it goes through so many different iterations. But I think a positive for me is look at the power of a story, look at the power of literature, look at the power of
rescue
and learning from our lovely fictional stories, but also our true stories that have lessons behind them. There's just so much behind literature, and it makes my heart a little sad that it was not all happy for Christopher. But I think the world would agree. Most people would thank A.A. Milne for the gift that he gave us when he created that sweet little Winnie the Pooh based on that beautiful, gentle, kind brown bear in that London Zoo.
So sweet.
So sweet. Who are we going to cheers, Ashley?
Well, I think we have to go back to the guy that started it all, which is the vet, Harry Colburn.
Harry Colburn, yeah.
Who rescued that first little bear in the first place. Because if he hadn't done that,
none of this would have happened.
None of this would have happened.
I love it.
Yeah.
Cheers to you, Harry Colburn.
Cheers.
If you love what we do, please rate and review our show or become a supporter through Buy Me a Coffee or Patreon. Whether a single gift or recurring monthly donation, your support is what allows us to keep the tea brewing.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast app or the Scandal Water Podcast YouTube channel, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Show notes are available at our website, scandalwaterpodcast.com, where you can also access the merch store and more.
This episode was executive produced by Candy Thomas, that's me, and Ashley Raymer Brown,
that's me.
It was researched and written by Candy Thomas and edited by Ashley Raymer Brown.
A special thank you to Josh Martin, who wrote, composed, and performed the Scandal Water theme and other music. Matt C. Adams, who created the artwork, and Joshua Reith, who designed our website and provides ongoing technical support.
As a reminder, this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes. The thoughts and opinions of the hosts during each episode of Scandal Water are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any future guests, advertisers, or clearly professional psychologists. Thanks for listening.